Right then, electrifiers, I have a question for you. Would you rather have this VW ID.3, which has just had a lovely midlife refresh, or an MG4 trophy? Come on, get your answers. Write them in the comments below. Let me know what you think. And I know what you're writing. You're writing, that's a ridiculous question, because it's a very unfair comparison, because this car is almost £5,000 more than the MG4. But oh no, I have been crunching the numbers, so just bear with me on this. And while you do, please do subscribe to the channel, switch your notifications on, and of course, let us know what you think about our latest video in the comments below. Now, it wasn't that long ago, a matter of weeks in fact, that you would have to wait up to a year to get your hands on a new VW ID.3, which is a bit nuts, isn't it? But how quickly things move on and change, because this car has now had a midlife refresh, and VW is actually offering some pretty good discounts on finance deals. So to get back to my original question, would you rather have the facelifted VW ID.3 or the MG4 trophy for the same money? So how does that work? Well, as of right now, which is August, even though it doesn't look like it, it is August. August 2023, the height of the British summer, you can pick up a facelifted VW ID.3 for just £3 a month more than you would a MG4 trophy. And that's with the same deposit and on the same lease terms. So come on, is it worth the price of a half-decent takeaway coffee more than the MG? Let's take a look at what they've done to it and find out, shall we? So VW's marketing team say this new version has, and I quote, a sharper exterior design, a sumptuous interior featuring more intuitive day-to-day usability features and state-of-the-art technology, all of which I would agree were areas that they probably did need to fix. So let's start off with that sharper exterior design, shall we? And you can see straight away that this car hasn't had a full-on facelift. It's been given, I guess, what they call in the business a tweakment, a small adjustment just to kind of bring it up to date. Only in this case, it's actually been made to look less distinctive and less bold rather than more. You see, despite the fact that VW claimed the ID.3 was the new Golf, only electric, it wasn't Golf-like enough to keep everyone happy. While some owners and some VW customers loved that bold design that it came with, it did polarise opinion and it did put some buyers off. So as you can see, the ID.3 has gone a bit more back to basics, a bit more Golf-like. At the front, there's a new bumper, and air intakes are another addition to help with aero and cooling. But the biggest change is that the black strip under the windscreen of the old model has been removed to make the bumper look longer and make the ID.3 look more conventional. There are also some matrix headlamps which you can opt for. They move around when you approach the car with the key in your pocket, as we first saw on my beloved ID Buzz. Down the side, you'll see there's this silver strip running along the roof to make the car feel lower and look lower, and the stickers have gone from the rear pillar. So around here at the back, the taillight clusters stretch round into the boot to kind of make it look a bit wider, give it a bit more presence. And the brake lights now make an X shape when you put the brakes on. I don't know, maybe to celebrate that whole new rebrand that Twitter's had or something. Now, undoubtedly the part of the ID.3, in fact the part of all VW electric cars, and indeed the majority of the VW Group electric cars, which has been criticised the most, is this, the infotainment system. I think it's fair to say has a bit of a life of its own. I guess it just wasn't ready. You know, the technology wasn't ready when they pushed this live in their cars, and owners were left really frustrated as it crashed and you had blank screens and software glitches. Now, there has been a steady stream of updates over the past 2 years since we first saw this car go on sale. Taking feedback from existing owners, the charging app is now up here on the top level of this sort of large touchscreen display. It just has a slightly more logical layout, and also it synced really quickly to my iPhone as well, which is a good thing. However, One of my really big bugbears, the slider is still here. This is the slider for the volume control, and you've got sort of little sliders here as well for the temperature. It's just not very intuitive to use, and it's a bit fiddly. So, does it scream state-of-the-art technology? Not sure about that, but it is a slight improvement, and it will get better over time, because the first cars in the UK like this one will get a 10-inch screen that we've seen before, but if you wait until mid 2024 you'll get a much nicer, larger screen, and also more of a technology update as well, including a backlight for the slider, which will make me happier. Although some physical buttons would make me happier still, VW, if you'd just like to note that for next time around. So let's have a look around the rest of the interior, shall we? And let's discover if it is sumptuous. Now, I'm not sure that my definition of sumptuous really runs to cars, unless you're talking about, I don't know, Bentleys or Rolls-Royce, things that have really been handcrafted. But first impressions are that it is a lot better in here. There's definitely nicer touch, softer plastics up here in the areas that matter. Further down you go, it gets a bit scratchy, gets a bit, you know, quality drops a bit, but that's to be expected. I like this kind of new trim on the doors. I really do like the seats with the new stitching in. Would I go as far as to say it's sumptuous? No, probably not, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And it still has lots of things that I do like in here, like this brilliant central storage area. I know the big move is to leave all that space nice and open, but actually this is a really usable space. One thing which hasn't changed much is the bits you can't see, the battery and the motor. And that's not really a bad thing, as we never had any complaints. As before, there are two battery choices, a 58 or 77 kilowatt hour power pack with a 201 brake horsepower motor at the back. Now I'm driving the smaller 58, and that manages 266 miles on the official tests. A massive 2 miles more than the old car. Apparently that's down to improved aerodynamics, and I guess it doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, it could be very welcome if you're 2 miles away from the nearest charger and you're running low. The 77 kilowatt hour version does even better, seeing an increase from 336 to 347 miles. In this car, that range equates to just under 4.6 miles per kilowatt hour, which is pretty good. And on my test today, I tried two different models. The first averaged 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour, but to be fair to it, I was doing a lot of stop-start driving on roads that weren't brilliant quality. The second, which had already been driven pretty steadily for most of the day, fared a lot better at 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour. Now we'll be testing out the ID.3 for longer in another video heading your way very soon, and I imagine the figure we'll end up seeing will be closer to that 4.2 mark. But either way, it's not the most efficient car in its class. That price goes to the new Vauxhall Astra Electric, which tops 5 miles per kilowatt hour, although you will pay for that. I am still reeling from the fact that the cheapest Astra is almost £40,000 in the UK. Anyway, back to this car, which happily is nowhere near that price. So, time to refresh myself with the ID.3. It's been ages actually since I've driven this car. And the first thing that really strikes me is that because it's rear wheel drive, it does really go well off the mark. It feels nice and steady. It's none of that kind of scrabbling with the front wheels that you sometimes get in electric cars when they're trying to cope with all that instant torque. I'd like a bit more feedback from the steering, but it's nice and light. Generally, this car really does handle pretty well. The one thing though that I don't remember noticing as much as I am today is just the ride quality and the lack of refinement in here. So we're not on brilliant roads, we're on some real proper country roads up in Rutland, and they're pretty bouncy. But goodness me, this is really picking up an awful lot of road noise that's coming into the cabin. And also the ride itself isn't great. You know, it's not particularly steady over the many lumps and bumps that there are in the road here. So that overly firm ride quality does settle down when you pick up speed. And on a stretch of A road, it feels far more composed. The natural habitat though for the ID.3, I think we've determined, is not country roads in Rutland, Where this car really comes into its own is around town, when that tight turning circle, peppy performance and the light steering really do find their natural habitat. The other thing that I think could be a lot better is the brake regeneration. So you do get a B mode on the gear selector up here, and I do like the way the gear selector is there. It reminds me of the BMW i3, which is one of my favourite electric cars. But anyway, I've put the B mode on, which normally gets me very excited because you can have true one pedal driving. It's just a bit meh. It's all right, it does slow down, but it's just not that kind of really nice controlled regenerative braking that can be really fun to use in an electric car, particularly on a nice stretch of country road like this. And there's something about this that always makes me think that it was rushed through a bit. You know, not just the issues with the software problems, but things like that as well. So again, I hope it's something that when they do a full model update on the ID.3 that they give a bit more attention to. Oh, the indicators. Ever since Nicola has joined the gang, I'm now really conscious of indicators in cars, so let's have a listen. Oh, yeah. That's I find it quite hard to hear over all the noise that's coming in, but it's a nice clunk, a satisfying clunk. When it comes to charging, the ID.3 can accept up to 120 kilowatts on this version, or an impressive 170 kilowatts in the bigger 77 kilowatt hour battery, and that is a big improvement on the old car's 135 kilowatts. That's not all that's increased though. Inevitably, all of the improvements have resulted in a price rise. And as I said earlier, this 58 kilowatt hour Pro starts at £37,115, a rise of just under £1,000 over the old car. The Pro 7 with the bigger battery is £42,870, which doesn't look too bad compared to some of the cars in this class that we've tested lately. We're looking at you, Vauxhall and Honda. But inevitably, it doesn't look great when you start to compare it to an MG4 or even a Tesla Model 3. But let's get back to those monthly payments and the deals I mentioned at the start of the video. As I said, these change all the time, but right now, August 2023, the VW is within £3 more a month than an MG4 Trophy on the same terms. The Tesla Model 3, that's £122 per month more with the same deposit, miles and over 3 years. And it's those figures that really start to make the VW ID.3 look like a serious player once again. It suddenly feels like much better value for money. So what do I think of the tweakment? Well, look, it drives well. You know, I think it does look a bit better. It's a bit more, I don't know, a bit smarter. And I really do like it in this olivine green colour, as I've already said. Look, inside, the changes aren't huge at all. It's a step in the right direction, but I would be tempted to wait for when we get that bigger screen and the improved infotainment system, which is coming next year. But you know then, those finance deals might not be on offer. So, I reckon you should probably check it out now. As always, thanks for watching, and if you want a more detailed review of the ID.3, then head over to electrifying.com where we've got all the latest in-depth reviews.